Hey guys, tonight we're not just diving into history, we're slipping into the very dreams of a king. Imagine yourself in the dimly lit scriptorium of ancient Nineveh. The scent of parchment and ink heavy in the air, as scribes meticulously record every whispered nightmare and prophetic vision of King Ashurbanipal. You're about to experience a level of intimacy with a long-dead ruler that few historians ever achieve, traversing the landscape of his subconscious, where anxieties about rebellion mingle with triumphant visions of conquest. You probably won't survive this journey unscathed, as the line between waking and dreaming blurs in the labyrinthine mind of a man who ruled a vast empire. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And let me know your location and what time it is for you right now in the comments below. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You find yourself transported, not to the dusty battlefields or grand palaces you might expect, but to the quieter, more contemplative world of a young prince in the bustling city of Nineveh. This isn't the Ashurbanipal of later legend, the fierce warrior king, but rather a youth seemingly destined for a life of scholarly pursuits. His older brother, Woken, is the heir apparent, groomed for the throne, while you, as Ashurbanipal, are immersed in the ancient arts of reading, writing, and divination. It's a rather unexpected path for a future monarch, isn't it? Most rulers were out honing their skills with chariots and bows, but here you are, poring over cuneiform tablets, absorbing the wisdom of ages. This dedication to learning wasn't a mere hobby. It was a deliberate choice by his father, Esarhaddon, who, perhaps recognizing a unique intellect in his younger son, decided to give him an education far beyond the typical royal curriculum. It's a mainstream historical fact that Ashurbanipal was exceptionally well educated even for a king. He could read and write Sumerian and Akkadian, something truly remarkable given that many of his royal predecessors relied solely on scribes for such tasks. This intimate connection with the written word would become a defining characteristic of his reign. He would often boast about his abilities, proclaiming his mastery over the scribal arts, skill that set him apart from his forebears. It was this deep immersion in texts that would later inspire his grandest cultural project. You can almost feel the weight of the clay tablets in your hands, the intricate wedge-shaped marks pressing into your fingertips as you trace the lines of ancient epics and administrative records. This immersive education, while seemingly diverting you from the path to power, was in fact subtly preparing you for it. You were learning the very fabric of your empire, its history, its laws, its culture, and crucially, its spiritual underpinnings. This focus on scholarly pursuits, while initially appearing to sideline you, was actually forging a mind unlike any other in Assyrian royalty. He wasn't just learning to decipher texts. He was learning to decipher the very soul of his civilization. The knowledge acquired in these formative years would prove invaluable when he eventually ascended to the throne, allowing him to govern with a depth of understanding rare among his contemporaries. His early life wasn't filled with the pomp and circumstance of a crown prince. Instead, it was dedicated to the quiet pursuit of knowledge, a stark contrast to the brutal image often associated with Assyrian rulers. This deep dive into ancient wisdom gave him an appreciation for the vast repository of human thought. From astronomical observations to medical treatises, from epic myths to economic accounts, he saw knowledge as a vital component of power, a tool for governance as potent as any army. Historians still argue whether Esarhaddon truly intended Ashurbanipal to be king from the outset, or if events simply conspired to place him on the throne. Some suggest Esarhaddon, perhaps sensing his own mortality or recognizing the specific needs of a complex empire, deliberately cultivated Ashurbanipal's unique talents. He might have envisioned a ruler who could command not just through military might, but through intellectual authority and profound understanding of the various peoples and cultures under Assyrian sway. Other scholars propose that it was simply a pragmatic decision to ensure at least one son was well versed in the intricate administrative and religious practices of the realm. Should the designated heir falter, it's a quirky tidbit that a king, known for his brutal military campaigns and relentless conquests, was at heart an intellectual, almost a librarian king before his time. Imagine, if you will, a king who could genuinely appreciate a good book, perhaps even debate the finer points of Mesopotamian poetry or philosophical texts with his scribes and scholars. It's a far cry from the typical image of a bronze-clad warrior, isn't it? This dichotomy makes him a particularly fascinating figure in ancient history. This formative period, steeped in knowledge and quiet contemplation, would profoundly shape your reign, giving you an appreciation for the written word that would culminate in one of the greatest cultural achievements of the ancient world, the Royal Library of Nineveh. You are, in essence, becoming the ideal patron of wisdom, even if you don't yet realize the full implications of your scholarly dedication. The quiet hours spent studying were, in retrospect, the silent forging of a mind that would both conquer and preserve a ruler whose legacy would be etched not only in stone, but also in clay. You were a prince who learned that knowledge itself was a form of power, as potent as any army, and that understanding the past was key to mastering the future. Your hands, usually occupied with stylus and tablet, would soon grasp the scepter, but the lessons learned in the scriptorium would remain a guiding force. This foundational period imbued you with a unique perspective, blending martial prowess with intellectual curiosity, setting the stage for a truly remarkable and ultimately well-documented reign. The scent of drying clay and the murmur of ancient languages became the very air you breathed, shaping the man who would one day command an empire and ensure its knowledge would endure for millennia. His personal library was not just a collection. It was an extension of his own intellectual ambition and a testament to the value he placed on wisdom. You stand now amidst what was once a monumental intellectual endeavor, the Royal Library of Ashurbanipal. It's not the hushed, carpeted halls of a modern library you envision, but rather rows upon rows of clay tablets, meticulously organized and housed in a vast structure within the royal palace at Nineveh. Imagine the sheer scale of it. Thousands upon thousands of texts, covering every conceivable aspect of Mesopotamian knowledge. From royal decrees and administrative records to epic poems, astronomical observations, medical texts, and of course, the very dream journals that are our focus tonight. This was, without a doubt, one of the first truly systematic libraries in human history, a testament to Ashurbanipal's unique vision. He didn't just stumble upon these texts. He actively commissioned scribes to copy ancient tablets from all corners of his vast empire, sending out explicit instructions to gather all the tablets that are in Sumer and Akkad. This wasn't merely about preserving knowledge. It was about centralizing it, about wielding information as another form of power. He understood that control over information was key to maintaining control over an empire. You can almost hear the soft rustle of scribes moving between shelves, the faint scratching of styluses on wet clay as new copies are made, the murmur of scholars debating interpretations. It's a mainstream historical fact that Ashurbanipal was immensely proud of his library, seeing it as a cornerstone of his reign and a symbol of Assyrian intellectual supremacy. He even boasted in his inscriptions about his ability to read and write Sumerian and Akkadian, something truly remarkable given that many of his royal predecessors relied solely on scribes for such tasks. This was not simply a collection of books. It was a living, breathing archive of an entire civilization's accumulated wisdom. Think of it as the ancient world's version of a national archive, a research institution, and a cultural heritage. Sight all rolled into one, meticulously curated by the king himself. He didn't just fund it. He was an active participant in its growth and organization. Historians still argue about the exact layout and organization of the library. Was it arranged by subject matter, by region of origin, by the type of text, for example? Historical annals, religious texts, omen compendiums, or by a more complex system yet to be fully understood by modern scholars? The meticulous labeling of tablets, often with colophons indicating the scribe, the original source, and even the owner, points to a highly sophisticated system for its time, far beyond mere random placement. It's a quirky tidbit that many of the tablets included a curse against anyone who would damage or steal them, a rather effective ancient security system, wouldn't you say? Imagine the sheer audacity of trying to pilfer a tablet knowing you'd be cursed by the very gods of Assyria, perhaps even afflicted with a terrible disease or a disastrous fate in battle. So that certainly puts modern library finds into perspective, doesn't it? These curses weren't just idle threats, they reflected the profound reverence for the written word and the knowledge it contained. You can feel the intellectual energy emanating from these silent, stacked artifacts. This wasn't a passive collection, it was a resource to be actively used. Diviners would consult astronomical texts to interpret omens. Physicians would refer to medical treatises for cures. And royal historians would chronicle the king's glorious deeds, ensuring his legacy for eternity. The dream journals, in particular, were of paramount importance. They weren't just personal curiosities. They were vital documents, providing direct insight into the king's relationship with the divine. The anxieties that plagued him and the purported omens that guided his decisions. Ashurbanipal believed deeply in the power of dreams as messages from the gods, and his library was the ultimate repository for interpreting these divine communications. You can almost feel the presence of the king himself, walking among these shelves, perhaps pulling a specific tablet to review a dream interpretation or to reread a prophecy that seemed particularly relevant to a current crisis. He wasn't just a patron. He was an active participant in this grand intellectual enterprise, a true bookworm king. The very existence of such a comprehensive library speaks volumes about the value placed on knowledge in the Assyrian court, a value that extended even to the innermost workings of the king's subconscious mind. It's a reminder that even in an age of brutal conquest, there was a profound respect for the power of the written word. Recognizing it as a source of strength, guidance, and immortality, the library was, in many ways, Ashurbanipal's most enduring monument, a place where his dreams, literally, were stored for posterity. Now that you've glimpsed the incredible repository of knowledge Ashurbanipal amassed, let's zero in on a particularly fascinating aspect of it: the profound role of dream interpretation in ancient Assyria. For you, as Ashurbanipal, dreams weren't just random neurological firings. They were direct messages from the gods, potent omens that could foretell victory or defeat, prosperity or plague, life or death. The belief system surrounding dreams was incredibly elaborate and deeply embedded in every facet of Mesopotamian society, from the lowest peasant to the most powerful king. This wasn't some fringe pseudoscience. It was a core component of statecraft and personal well-being, influencing everything from military campaigns to agricultural policies. The very fabric of daily life, especially at the royal court, was infused with this spiritual understanding of nocturnal visions. Mainstream historical fact confirms that divination, including dream interpretation, was a highly developed and respected discipline in the ancient Near East, with a specialized class of diviners and exorcists dedicated to its practice. These were not quacks or charlatans. They were highly trained professionals, often from elite families, who underwent rigorous apprenticeships to master the vast body of omen literature. The chief diviner, known as the Baru priest, held immense influence, essentially acting as the king's personal psychic advisor, a direct conduit to the divine will. His interpretations could sway major decisions, making him a figure of considerable power and responsibility. You can almost feel the anticipation in the air as you recount a vivid dream to your chief Baru priest, the royal diviner. His expression is one of intense concentration, his stylus poised over a fresh clay tablet. He's not merely listening. He's analyzing every detail, every symbol, every fleeting emotion you describe. Was the dream good or bad? Was it a true dream, sent by the gods, or a false one? Perhaps sent by malevolent spirits, or merely a product of indigestion? The distinction was crucial. True dreams often required specific rituals or actions to fulfill their positive portents or avert their negative ones.
Imagine the pressure on these diviners, knowing that a misinterpretation could lead to disaster for the empire,
Or at least a very bad day for them, potentially even costing them their lives or positions. It's a bit like an ancient consultant with life-or stakes, isn't it? It's a quirky tidbit that there were specific dream dictionaries or oniromancy texts listing thousands of dream symbols and their established interpretations. So, if you dreamed of, say, a white dog, it might mean divine protection and loyalty, while a black dog meant impending danger or betrayal. If you dreamed of eating dates, it might signify prosperity, but if you dreamed of eating a rotten fish, well, that was probably bad news. It sounds a bit like an ancient version of those online dream symbol lookup sites, except with far higher stakes and actual divine consequences. These detailed compendiums provided a systematic framework for interpretation, attempting to bring order to the seemingly chaotic world of dreams. Historians still argue about the precise methodology these diviners used. Was it purely rote memorization of symbols, with priests simply matching a dream image to its predetermined meaning? Or was there an element of intuitive understanding, a nuanced reading of the king's own emotional state, the current political landscape, and the broader omens of the day? You, as Ashurbanipal, would have expected a clear, actionable interpretation, not just a vague prediction. If you dreamed of a flood, did it mean an actual river overflowing, a flood of enemies, or even a flood of good fortune? The Baru priest's job was to clarify this ambiguity, to provide counsel on the necessary rituals or military actions. You might be advised to offer a specific sacrifice to a certain god, to perform a purification ceremony, or even to launch a preemptive strike against a perceived enemy, all based on the veiled messages of the subconscious. The significance of these dream journals, therefore, goes far beyond personal anecdotes. They provide an unparalleled window into the psychological landscape of an ancient monarch, revealing his fears, his hopes, and his spiritual convictions. They show how intertwined the human and divine realms were perceived to be, and how daily decisions, even military campaigns, could be influenced by a nocturnal vision. The very act of meticulously recording these dreams is often accompanied by the diviner's interpretation and the king's subsequent actions, highlights the profound trust placed in this ancient form of communication with the cosmos. It paints a picture of a king who, despite his immense worldly power, is constantly seeking guidance from realms beyond his immediate perception. A king who believed that the whispers of the night held the keys to his empire's destiny. His reign was a continuous dialogue with the divine, initiated each time he closed his eyes. With the backdrop of Assyrian dream interpretation now firmly in your mind, let's peel back the layers and actually delve into some of Ashurbanipal's earliest documented dream accounts. Imagine, as the king, waking from a deep slumber, the images of the night still vivid in your mind. You immediately summon your Baru priests, eager to unravel the divine messages you believe have been sent directly to you. These initial dreams, recorded meticulously in the royal journals, often set the tone for your reign, offering glimpses into your burgeoning kingship and the anxieties that accompanied it. It's a mainstream historical fact that the earliest dreams recorded for kings were often pivotal, establishing a divine mandate or warning of initial challenges. These early visions were crucial for solidifying the king's legitimacy and providing a spiritual roadmap for his rule. You might, for instance, describe a dream where you see the great god Ashur, perhaps in human form but radiating immense power, placing the crown upon your head. The air in the dream would be thick with reverence, a sense of overwhelming destiny and divine approval. You'd feel a profound sense of validation, confirmation that your ascension to the throne was not merely a political event, but a sacred appointment. Your Baru priest would interpret this as an unequivocal and clear sign of divine favor, a blessing upon your nascent reign, assuring you of Ashur's protection and guidance. Such a dream would bolster your confidence, solidify your legitimacy in the eyes of your court, your army, and most importantly, in your own mind. It's a bit like getting a celestial thumbs up from the big guy upstairs, directly confirming your leadership role and ensuring your path forward. This type of dream would be widely disseminated, not just within the palace, but perhaps even among the populace, to reinforce your divine right to rule. Historians still argue about the degree to which these dreams were genuinely experienced by the king versus being carefully curated. Narratives designed to reinforce his legitimacy. Were they truly spontaneous visitations, products of the subconscious mind processing the weight of kingship? Or were they perhaps a clever way to present a divinely sanctioned policy or to justify actions that were already politically expedient? It's difficult to separate the genuine spiritual belief from the pragmatic use of divination for political gain. Nevertheless, the fact that such dreams were meticulously recorded suggests they held significant weight, regardless of their precise origin. Then there might be a more unsettling dream, a counterpoint to the glorious visions. Perhaps you find yourself walking through a parched, cracked landscape, the sun beating down relentlessly, the very air hot and still. See withered crops, scattered bones, and hear the faint, desperate cries of a starving populace. This dream, your diviner might explain, isn't necessarily a prophecy of immediate famine, but a symbolic warning of potential threats to the well-being of your people, or the stability of your kingdom. It might prompt you to review agricultural policies, inspect irrigation systems for potential blockages, or even consider stockpiling grain in royal granaries to prepare for future lean times, all to avert the grim vision presented by your subconscious. This proactive approach, driven by a nocturnal vision, highlights the practical application of dream interpretation, showing it as a tool for governance rather than mere superstition. It's a quirky tidbit that sometimes the Baru priest would recommend, a ritual called a substitute king if a dream was particularly ominous, especially one that portended ill fate for the monarch. In this ritual, a commoner, often a condemned criminal, would temporarily sit on the throne, taking on the bad omen, acting as a scapegoat. During this period, the real king would go into hiding, perhaps in a remote temple or a heavily guarded chamber, performing rituals of purification. After a set period, the substitute king would be ritually sacrificed, theoretically carrying away the ill fate and leaving the true king untouched by the prophecy. Talk about a rough job interview, huh? Thankfully, these extreme measures were rare for Ashurbanipal, whose early dreams often tended towards the more auspicious, perhaps reflecting the initial stability and promise of his rule. The overall narrative of his early dream life is one of divine endorsement and warnings that allowed for proactive measures. Rather than inescapable doom, these initial entries in your dream journals are foundational. They reveal a monarch deeply invested in understanding the will of the gods and eager to leverage divine insights for the betterment and security of his empire. The interpretations aren't merely passive. They often demand action, shaping the early decisions of your reign. From religious observances to administrative reforms, you are learning to navigate the subtle language of the divine, a crucial skill for any Assyrian king. And these first documented dreams are your earliest lessons in this ancient mystical art. They set the precedent for a reign that would be constantly informed by the unseen world, a king who listened intently to the whispers of his own soul, believing them to be the voice of the gods guiding his destiny. As you continue your journey through Ashurbanipal's dream world, outwailed, you'll find that his nocturnal visions rarely existed in a vacuum. For the Assyrians, the cosmos was a vibrant, interconnected tapestry, where everything from the flight of a bird to the shape of an animal's liver during sacrifice could carry divine meaning. This brings us to the fascinating interplay between dreams and other omens and portents. Imagine, as Ashurbanipal, having a vivid dream one night, only to have it seemingly confirmed or contradicted by an unusual natural phenomenon the very next day. This layering of divine communication, where one sign reinforces or clarifies another, was a cornerstone of Assyrian divination. It's a mainstream historical fact that Mesopotamian divination involved a vast array of techniques, with dreams being just one important piece of a larger, complex puzzle, all aimed at understanding the intentions of the gods. You might dream, for example, of a ferocious lion attacking your city walls, a clear and terrifying vision of impending invasion. You wake, heart pounding, and immediately summon your Baru priests. They begin their meticulous interpretation, consulting their dream books, perhaps performing a ritual to divine the will of the gods through the smoke of incense from fragrant woods or by observing the movement of oil on water. Then, later that day, a flock of crows, known as birds of ill omen, unexpectedly lands on the palace roof, cawing incessantly and refusing to disperse. Or perhaps a sudden unseasonal dust storm sweeps through Nineveh, darkening the sky to an eerie orange, carrying with it a tangible sense of unease. This confluence of a disturbing dream with an equally disturbing natural omen would amplify the king's anxiety and compel immediate, decisive action. It's a bit like getting a terrifying email, then moments later, your doorbell rings and it's a clown with a menacing grin delivering a pizza, accompanied by a marching band playing a discordant tune. You'd probably connect the dots, right? Feel a profound sense of dread that something truly terrible was unfolding. Historians still argue about the extent to which these seemingly coincidental omens were truly spontaneous events, or if in some cases they were carefully observed and then creatively linked to the king's dreams by politically astute diviners. After all, if a Baru priest had correctly interpreted a dream and then a corresponding, verifiable omen appeared, it certainly enhanced his reputation and influence within the court, solidifying his position as a trustworthy interpreter of divine. Well, this careful observation of the natural world for signs was a critical aspect of Assyrian spiritual life, forming a massive corpus of recorded observations. They meticulously recorded everything: eclipses, meteor showers, the birth of deformed animals, which were often considered highly potent omens, unusual behavior of wild beasts, even the strange growth patterns of plants, or the specific way a fire burned during a sacrifice. Every deviation from the norm was a potential message from the gods, requiring careful scrutiny and interpretation. It's a quirky tidbit that the liver of sacrificed animals was a particularly important source of omens, a practice known as hepatoscopy. Specialists called Baru the same term as dream interpreters. Underscoring their comprehensive divinatory role would examine the liver's shape, color, and markings, comparing them to thousands of recorded liver omens, each carefully cataloged, to predict the future. So a dream about a successful hunt might be reinforced by a perfectly formed, auspicious liver found during a subsequent animal sacrifice, sealing the prophecy of victory. Conversely, a liver with unusual growths or discolorations, appearing after a troubling dream, would confirm a negative omen, demanding immediate appeasement rituals. The internal organs of animals were seen as a microcosmic reflection of the macrocosmic divine will. For you, Ashurbanipal, these corroborating omens would have provided crucial validation for your dream interpretations. They transformed a potentially ambiguous nocturnal vision into a concrete divine directive, leaving little room for doubt. If a dream suggested a military campaign was favored by the gods, then a particularly auspicious celestial alignment occurred. Perhaps a bright star appearing at dawn, your resolve would be strengthened, and you'd proceed with greater confidence, knowing the heavens themselves approved. Conversely, a negative dream reinforced by a bad omen, like a bird falling dead from the sky, or a spring suddenly drying up, could lead to a postponement of plans, tense appeasement rituals to avert disaster, or a complete change in strategy. The royal dream journals often detail these interconnected events, showing how the king and his diviners meticulously piece together the fragments of divine communication, attempting to construct a coherent picture of the god's will. For the mighty Assyrian Empire, you were living in a constant, intense conversation with the universe, always listening, always interpreting, always seeking to align your powerful earthly actions with the unseen, guiding hands of the divine. Having explored how broader omens colored Ashurbanipal's dreamscape, let's now plunge into the heart of his royal anxieties, dreams of warfare. For a king whose reign was defined by relentless military campaigns and the brutal suppression of rebellions, it's hardly surprising that his subconscious mind was a veritable battlefield. These dreams weren't just abstract visions, they were often highly specific, detailing enemies, strategies, and the very outcomes of future conflicts. They were treated as divine intelligence reports, offering a glimpse into the will of the gods concerning the fate of armies and empires. It's a mainstream historical fact that Assyrian kings regularly consulted diviners, including dream interpreters, before embarking on military campaigns, major sieges, or even small punitive expeditions. Victory or defeat often hinged on receiving the divine blessing, or at least a clear warning, making these visions incredibly influential. Imagine as Ashurbanipal, dreaming vividly of the god Ashur, perhaps depicted as a colossal warrior with a flowing beard and gleaming armor, leading your troops into battle against a defiant Elamite army. You see the enemy lines break there, chariots overturned in chaotic heaps, their soldiers fleeing in disarray, pursued relentlessly by your victorious forces. The dream is imbued with a sense of divine triumph, the air ringing with the sounds of victory, the cries of the vanquished.
Ow.
You feel an overwhelming surge of confidence and divine favor. Your Baru priest would naturally interpret this as an unequivocal promise of success, a divine endorsement of your military prowess and strategy. This would undoubtedly bolster your morale and that of your commanders, fueling your confidence for the upcoming campaign and inspiring your soldiers with the conviction that the gods fought on their side. It's a bit like getting a cheat code for a video game right before the final boss, isn't it? Except, with actual lives at stake, and the game is the fate of nations. Then, there are the more troubling visions, the nightmares that reflect the immense pressure and very real dangers of constant warfare. You might dream of your own forces surrounded, or distinctive standards falling into the dust, the sounds of desperate cries and the clash of steel filling the air. Perhaps you see a river, choked and red with blood, or a vast field strewn with the bodies of your own fallen warriors, a chilling premonition of heavy casualties. Such a dream would plunge you into deep concern, compelling immediate consultation with your diviners.
Oh yeah.
They might interpret it as a warning against a specific tactical error, like an ambush or a poorly chosen battleground, or perhaps a sign that the gods were displeased with some recent action and required appeasement before battle. Historians still argue about the precise degree to which these dreams directly altered military strategy versus simply confirming existing anxieties or intentions. Did a bad dream genuinely cause a meticulously planned campaign to be stopped or significantly altered? Or did it merely provide a divine justification for a decision already being considered by the king and his generals? Perhaps due to logistical issues or intelligence about enemy strength. The line between divine will and pragmatic decision-making is often blurred in these ancient accounts. It's a quirky tidbit that some dream interpretations for warfare involved highly specific details, which were meticulously noted by the scribes. For instance, the color of an enemy's banner seen in a dream, or the number of specific animal totems, like a black lion fighting a white bull that appeared, were believed to hold crucial clues for victory or defeat. So, a dream of a black lion triumphing over a white bull might not just be a generic battle vision, but a very specific omen about two rival factions, with the outcome depending on which animal triumphed in your dream, indicating which specific enemy leader would fall or which ally would betray you. These detailed accounts in the dream journals offer unparalleled insight into the strategic thinking and the pervasive spiritual beliefs that underpinned Assyrian warfare. You weren't just fighting human enemies, you were constantly battling for divine favor, and your dreams were the front line of that spiritual struggle. Each conflict, each rebellion, each conquest was not merely a physical contest, but a profound test of your relationship with the powerful gods who held your fate, and the fate of your empire in their hands. The detailed recordings show a king who never went into battle without first consulting the hidden messages of the night. Now, let's zoom in on a particularly prominent series of military endeavors that heavily featured in Ashurbanipal's dream diaries, his campaigns into Egypt. These were not mere skirmishes. They were grand, ambitious expeditions to maintain Assyrian dominance over a historically wealthy and strategically vital region. A breadbasket and a source of immense prestige. For you, as Ashurbanipal, asserting control over Egypt was paramount, a symbol of your empire's reach and invincibility. And the god's favor in this endeavor was constantly sought, often through the conduit of your dreams. It's a mainstream historical fact that Assyrian involvement in Egypt was fraught with challenges, including local resistance, the formidable presence of powerful Kushite pharaohs from the south, and the sheer logistical difficulties of campaigning across vast deserts. It's made divine guidance all the more critical, as the outcome was never a foregone conclusion. Imagine dreaming of the majestic Nile River, but instead of its usual life-giving, its placid flow, its waters are turbulent, filled with the debris of battle, broken chariots, fallen soldiers, and shattered ships. Or perhaps, in a more auspicious vision, the mighty river parts dramatically to reveal a clear, dry path for your armies, allowing them to bypass treacherous marshlands or enemy strongholds. Your Baru priest might interpret such a vision as a sign of divine intervention, explicitly clearing the way for your forces, or perhaps predicting a chaotic but ultimately successful conquest, a victory forged through hardship. You might then recall the vivid details of the dream, the distinctive headwear of the Egyptian pharaohs, the palm-lined banks stretching endlessly, the strange animals like crocodiles and hippos that were alien and exotic to Mesopotamian eyes. These details, no matter how small, would be meticulously recorded in the journals, along with their suggested interpretations, as they could hold critical clues about the success or failure of the campaign. It's a bit like a pre-visualization meeting for a major military operation. But instead of a director, you have a divine being giving you hints about the production, blurring the lines between foresight and fate. Then there are the dreams that reveal your anxieties, reflecting the immense challenges of a foreign campaign. Perhaps you see yourself sinking helplessly into the shifting sands of the vast Egyptian desert, your armored body slowly being swallowed, or your heavy chariots getting irrevocably bogged down in the unfamiliar watery terrain of the Nile Delta, making them useless. You might dream of mysterious Egyptian sorcerers chanting curses and weaving dark magic against your forces, or the fierce black pharaohs of Kush, their imposing armies arrayed against you with their unique weaponry and battle strategies. Disturbing dreams would prompt intense discussions with your diviners. They might advise specific rituals to counteract perceived Egyptian magic, or suggest a more cautious approach to logistics across the vast, inhospitable deserts. Historians still argue about the extent to which these dreams influenced specific military decisions in Egypt versus simply providing a spiritual framework for the king's existing strategic thinking. Did a dream of a clear path along the Nile truly dictate a march route, or merely reinforce a preferred plan that was already logistically sound? The interplay between belief and pragmatic decision-making remains a fascinating area of scholarly debate. It's a quirky tidbit that one recorded. Dream specifically describes a favorable omen from the god SPN, the moon god, appearing as a brilliant crescent moon hovering majestically over the Egyptian capital of Memphis, shining down with an almost palpable blessing. This vision was interpreted as a clear sign of imminent victory, signaling divine approval for the assault on that critical city. Such a dream would have been seen as a powerful endorsement from the heavens, spurring your troops onward with renewed vigor and confidence, convinced of their ultimate triumph. These entries are fascinating because they reveal the psychological toll of such distant and challenging campaigns. The foreignness of the Egyptian landscape, its unique cultural practices, the resilience of its defenders, and the sheer logistical hurdles of supplying an army far from home would have weighed heavily on your mind, manifesting in both reassuring and disturbing nocturnal visions, your dream journals. Therefore, become a personal narrative of your struggle and ultimate triumph in the land of the pharaohs, a testament to how deeply interwoven belief, ambition, and the subconscious were. In the heart of the Assyrian king, each battle fought on Egyptian soil was first fought, and often won or lost, in the veiled, symbolic realm of your dreams, from the shifting sands of Egypt. Your dream journey now leads you to a far more personal and agonizing conflict for Ashurbanipal, the devastating Babylonian uprising. This wasn't an external enemy. It was a betrayal from within, a direct challenge from your own elder brother, Woken, whom your father Esarhaddon was appointed king of Babylon, seemingly to foster peace and cooperation between the two great Mesopotamian powers. This internecine struggle, a civil war tearing at the very heart of the Assyrian Empire, undoubtedly spawns some of your most tormented and vivid dreams, reflecting not just strategic concerns but profound personal anguish. It's a mainstream historical fact that the conflict with Shamash-Shumukin was one of the most brutal and challenging periods of Ashurbanipal's reign, involving a protracted and costly siege of Babylon itself, ultimately resulting in immense destruction. Imagine, as Ashurbanipal, experiencing dreams that are a twisted, agonizing reflection of your waking nightmares. You might see two great lions, brothers, locked in a death grip, tearing at each other with savage ferocity, their roars echoing. In the emptiness, their golden fur matted with blood. This symbolic combat represents the unbearable conflict raging between you and your sibling. Your Baru priest would, with a heavy heart, interpret this as the agonizing fratricide unfolding, a grim prophecy of the inevitable. Destructive conflict between you and Shamash-Shumukin, the psychological burden of fighting your own flesh and blood. A brother with whom you likely shared childhood memories and tutelage. His tutelage would manifest deeply in these agonizing nocturnal visions, making the war a deeply personal tragedy. It's a bit like having a recurring dream where your closest family member suddenly turns on you with malice. But in this case, the family member is your brother, and the stakes are an entire empire with the destiny of millions hanging in the balance. Then there are the dreams of the siege itself, rendered with horrifying clarity. You might see the mighty walls of Babylon, once a symbol of shared Mesopotamian heritage and cultural pride, now burning uncontrollably, vast plumes of smoke, billowing into the sky, thick and suffocating. The air in your dream would be filled with the desperate cries of its starving inhabitants, the clash of siege engines, and the sounds of collapsing structures. Perhaps you see Shamash-Shumukin himself, trapped within the inferno, or desperately trying to escape the burning city, only to be cut down by your own soldiers. These dreams would underscore the immense personal cost of the conflict, the tragic destruction of a great city, and the agonizing, unavoidable end of your brother. Historians still argue about the true motivations behind Shamash-Shumukin's rebellion. Was it a genuine desire for Babylonian independence from Assyrian overlordship? A personal grievance against Ashurbanipal for perceived slights, or perhaps a desperate political maneuver gone terribly, tragically wrong? Your dreams, recorded in the journals, offer a rare, intimate glimpse into your own perspective on this devastating family feud, revealing the emotional toll it took on the supreme ruler. It's a quirky tidbit that during the protracted and brutal siege of Babylon, some of your diviners might have reported dreams of the Babylonian chief god Marduk. It's depicted as distraught, weeping, or even explicitly turning his back on the city of Babylon, signifying his abandonment of the rebellious forces. Such a dream, despite its unsettling imagery for Babylonian subjects, would have been interpreted by your Assyrian priests as an overwhelmingly good omen, signifying Marduk's displeasure with Shamash-Shumukin's sacrilegious rebellion and confirming divine favor for your cause. These subtle shifts in divine allegiance, even if only perceived in dreams, were crucial for maintaining morale among your besieging troops and justifying the brutal actions against the once revered city. The dream journals from this period are less about external conquest and more about the internal turmoil of a king forced to confront his own lineage, his own blood. You are battling not just an army, but a deep-seated emotional pain, a profound sense of loss and betrayal, and your dreams become a mirror reflecting this profound conflict. The memory of this fraternal war, etched into the clay tablets with chilling detail, serves as a poignant reminder that even for the most powerful of kings, the greatest battles are sometimes fought closest to home, in the shadowy landscape of the heart and mind, leading to consequences that echo for centuries. As you journey deeper into Ashurbanipal's subconscious, you begin to perceive the anxieties that extended beyond immediate military threats or fraternal strife. For any ancient king, the question of succession, the continuation of the royal lineage, was paramount. After all, what's a mighty empire without a strong, legitimate hand to guide it into the future, ensuring stability and preventing internal power struggles? Your dream journals, as Ashurbanipal, reveal a fascinating layer of visions concerning the continuity of your line and the stability of the Assyrian throne. It's a mainstream historical fact that dynastic concerns were a constant preoccupation. For ancient monarchs, often influencing everything from marriage alliances to military campaigns aimed at securing borders for future generations, the very legitimacy of a dynasty rested on the ability to produce strong, acceptable heirs. Imagine dreaming of a sturdy, ancient tree, its roots deeply embedded in the earth, anchoring it firmly against any storm. Its branches reach majestically towards the sky, lush with vibrant green leaves and heavily laden with ripe, abundant fruit. Perhaps you see vigorous young saplings growing proudly at its base, promising renewal and continuity. Your Baru priest would undoubtedly interpret this as an overwhelmingly auspicious sign for your lineage. A divine promise of many strong, healthy heirs and the enduring prosperity of your dynasty. This vision would bring you immense comfort and reassurance, confirming the divine favor upon your family and strengthening your resolve to ensure a seamless transition of power. It's a bit like seeing a perfectly symmetrical, thriving garden in your dream, not just beautiful, but deeply satisfying, isn't it? A visual affirmation of order and fertility. Then there are the less comforting dreams, reflecting the ever-present anxieties about the future of your bloodline and empire. You might experience a dream of a withered tree, its leaves falling away, its branches barren and brittle, perhaps struck by lightning, signifying decay and a tragic end. Or perhaps you see your majestic royal crown rolling away, falling into a dark, bottomless chasm, symbolizing a loss of power, or even worse, a catastrophic break in the succession, plunging the empire into chaos. These would be profoundly unsettling visions, prompting urgent consultations with your diviners. They might suggest propitiatory rituals to appease offended deities, or encourage specific actions to secure the line, such as formally announcing a favored heir, arranging strategic dynastic marriages, or engaging in further temple building to ensure continuous divine favor for your descendants. Historians still argue about the extent to which these succession dreams were genuine expressions of personal anxiety versus carefully crafted narratives designed to legitimize a specific choice of heir. Did Ashurbanipal genuinely fear for his lineage's future and truly receive these warnings? Or were these dreams a convenient, divinely sanctioned way to publicly solidify his chosen successor and preempt any potential challenges from rival factions within the court? The interplay between genuine belief and political utility is complex. It's a quirky tidbit that some royal dreams related to succession involved highly specific symbolic animals. For instance, a dream of a strong lion cub playing vigorously with a majestic lioness might signify a powerful and auspicious son being born to a queen, promising a robust future ruler. Conversely, a dream of a weak or sickly cub struggling to survive could be a dire warning about a fragile heir or a difficult period for the royal family. These animal metaphors were common in Assyrian omen texts and reflected their deep connection to the natural world and its perceived reflection of divine will. Your dream journals therefore become a fascinating window into the dynastic politics and profound uncertainties of the Neo-Assyrian Empire. They reveal the hopes you held for your children, the anxieties about maintaining your empire's future stability, and the ever-present shadow of potential instability or dynastic collapse. The meticulous recording of these dreams underscores the profound belief that the future of the empire was not just a matter of military might or astute political maneuvering, but also a matter of divine will, constantly being communicated through the veiled language of the subconscious. You are not merely a king, but a guardian of a sacred lineage, and your dreams were a constant reminder of that profound, weighty responsibility, a continuous dialogue with fate itself. Beyond the realms of war and succession, Ashurbanipal's dream journals offer a profound insight into his relationship with the divine, particularly how dreams guided his religious acts and monumental temple-building projects. For a king who saw himself as a direct agent of the gods, their chosen representative, on earth, maintaining their favor was not just a pious duty, but a fundamental aspect of kingship and imperial stability. Neglecting the gods was tantamount to inviting disaster upon the realm. It's a mainstream historical fact that ancient Mesopotamian kings were heavily involved in religious cults and temple construction, viewing it as a core responsibility and a means to secure divine blessings for their reigns and their people. These acts of piety were often grand public spectacles designed to reinforce the king's legitimacy. Imagine, as Ashurbanipal, dreaming of a majestic temple, its soaring ziggurat reaching towards the heavens, symbolizing the connection between earth and sky. But in your dream, its foundations are crumbling, its magnificent walls are cracked, or its sacred altars lie neglected and overgrown. You might see a specific deity, perhaps Ishtar, the powerful goddess of love, war, and fertility, looking displeased, her divine countenance filled with subtle disapproval, or even explicitly, turning away from a neglected shrine, her light dimming. Your Baru priest would immediately interpret this as a clear and urgent divine command for renovation, expansion, or even the complete construction of an entirely new edifice dedicated to that particular deity. This wasn't merely about aesthetics or grandiosity. It was about ensuring the continued protection and abundant blessings of the gods upon your empire, safeguarding against drought, famine, or military defeat. It's a bit like getting a really strong, divinely delivered suggestion from your celestial landlord to fix a leaky roof. Except your landlord is a powerful deity, and if you don't fix it, your entire kingdom might spring a metaphorical and very real leak of misfortune. Then there are the dreams that inspire specific rituals or offerings, going beyond mere construction. You might dream of a particular deity requesting a unique sacrifice, perhaps a rare animal, specific precious gem, or a newly composed hymn. Or perhaps you receive a vision of a new cultic practice to be established, a festival to be observed, or a specific idol to be crafted and placed within a temple. These dreams would be meticulously recorded. The prescribed rituals would be carried out with great pomp and ceremony, often involving the king himself in a leading role, demonstrating his personal devotion and public piety. Historians still argue about the level of genuine spiritual experience versus strategic political maneuverings in these religious acts. Did Ashurbanipal truly feel divinely compelled to build a new temple or perform a complex ritual driven by sincere spiritual conviction? Or was it also a clever way to demonstrate his power, wealth, and piety to his subjects and rival kings, securing loyalty and deterring rebellion by showcasing his unique connection to the gods? The motivations are likely a complex blend of both. It's a quirky tidbit that some dreams even dictated the exact materials or precise placement of a new temple's foundation stone. A dream of a particular type of rare, shimmering stone gleaming under a divine light, for instance, might lead to a costly expedition to acquire that very stone from distant lands for a sacred purpose, no matter the expense or difficulty. This demonstrates the incredible detail and specificity that could arise from these nocturnal visitations, proving that every aspect of religious construction could be divinely guided. Your dream journals are therefore not just a chronicle of your personal spiritual life, but also a detailed record of Assyrian religious practice, ritual prescriptions, and monumental architecture. You are constantly seeking divine affirmation, cosmic nod that ensures your actions are aligned with the will of the heavens. Believing that such alignment guarantees imperial prosperity, each brick laid, each offering made, each incense burned, is a direct consequence of these whispered messages from the gods, making your reign a testament to the profound connection between the earthly throne and the celestial pantheon. The very existence of Nineveh's grand temples and palaces stands as a permanent, tangible manifestation of these powerful guiding dreams. Monuments built as much from visions as from stone, even for a mighty king like Ashurbanipal, whose power seemed limitless. The human body is a fragile thing, and the shadow of illness or injury can cast a pall over even the most triumphant reign. His detailed dream journals offer a rare glimpse into a more vulnerable side of the monarch, reflecting his personal reflections on physical well-being and the looming specter of impending ailments. For the Assyrians, health was intrinsically linked to divine favor, and sickness could be a sign of divine displeasure, a punishment for an unknown transgression. or the insidious work of malevolent spirits and demons seeking to afflict the living. It's a mainstream historical fact that ancient medicine, while possessing practical knowledge of herbs and surgical techniques, often incorporated strong spiritual and magical elements, viewing the body as a vessel that could be influenced by supernatural forces. Imagine, as Ashurbanipal, experiencing a dream where your body feels heavy and sluggish, your limbs refusing to obey your will, as if weighed down by unseen burdens. Or perhaps you see yourself struggling to breathe, gasping for air in a suffocating darkness, your chest tightening with an overwhelming sense of panic. Such dreams, often accompanied by waking symptoms like fever, pain, or weakness, would send a shiver of unease through you and those around you. Your Baru priests and dedicated exorcists, known as a shapu, would be summoned immediately, not just to interpret the dream's symbolic meaning, but to diagnose its underlying spiritual cause and prescribe the necessary rituals and remedies to counteract it. This isn't just about a doctor giving you some ancient cough syrup or a poultice. It's about spiritual warfare being waged against the unseen forces trying to afflict you. A cosmic battle for your very essence. It's a bit like having a persistent, nagging cough, and then your dream vividly tells you it's actually a mischievous imp sitting on your chest, making it hard to breathe. You'd probably want that imp exorcised, right? And quickly? Then there are dreams that might warn of specific injuries or dangers, acting as a divine early warning system. You might dream of tripping and falling badly on a smooth surface, or a heavy object narrowly missing you, or perhaps a subtle, persistent weakness developing in a specific limb. These aren't just random visions, they're divine alerts, prompting caution or prophylactic measures to avert the foretold misfortune. Your diviners might advise you to avoid certain activities for a period, like going on a hunt or supervising construction, or to perform a protective ritual, such as wearing a specific amulet or offering a sacrifice at a crossroads. Historians still argue about the direct correlation between these health dreams and actual physical afflictions. Were the dreams genuine premonitions of illness, allowing the king to take preventative action? Or were they psychological manifestations of existing, perhaps subtle, discomforts that the king was already experiencing, which then became amplified and dramatized in his subconscious mind? The precise interplay remains elusive. It's a quirky tidbit that some dream texts from this period mention very specific remedies or ritual ingredients prescribed after a health-related dream. For example, a dream of a burning fever or intense internal heat might lead to a prescription for a poultice made from a specific rare herb found only on a certain sacred mountain peak, to be applied after a complex ritual incantation involving specific prayers and gestures. These details highlight the incredibly interconnectedness of dream interpretation, spiritual belief, and practical medicine in ancient Assyria, where the physical and metaphysical were seamlessly integrated. Your dream journals, therefore, offer a profoundly human dimension to the otherwise formidable image of Ashurbanipal. They show a powerful ruler wrestling with the universal vulnerabilities of the human body, seeking solace and solutions from the divine realm, treating illness as a cosmic challenge rather than merely a biological one.
Oh, yes.
Was as much a spiritual battle as a physical one, and your dreams were the essential early warning system, guiding your priests and healers in their efforts to restore your strength and ensure your longevity, crucial for the stability of the empire. Each ache and pain, each moment of physical discomfort, was filtered through the lens of divine communication in the silent hours of the night. Having explored the grand, empire-shaping dreams of war, succession, and divine guidance, let's now settle into a quieter, more intimate corner of Ashurbanipal's dream journals, the reflections of everyday life. Even for a king ruling a vast empire, constantly engaged in diplomacy, administration, and warfare, the mundane realities of daily existence found their way into the subconscious. These subtle, often overlooked entries offer a surprisingly relatable glimpse into the king's personal experiences, his underlying anxieties, and perhaps even his simple joys and frustrations. It's a mainstream historical fact that ancient texts, while often focusing on grand narratives of kings and gods, sometimes contain fascinating, almost accidental details about the daily lives of people. From the most powerful monarchs to the humblest commoners, providing a rich tapestry of social history. Imagine as Ashurbanipal, dreaming of a bountiful harvest. With golden fields stretching to the horizon, overflowing granaries bursting with grain, and the distant, joyful laughter of children playing freely in the palace gardens. You might even dream of the peaceful bleating of well-fed flocks, or the steady hum of a prosperous marketplace. Your Baru priest might interpret this as a sign of general prosperity for your kingdom. A subtle affirmation of good governance, divine blessing, on the land and the well-being of your subjects. These dreams aren't about immediate threats or grand conquests, but about the steady, reassuring rhythms of a well-ordered and fertile society, reflecting a king's desire for the stability and happiness of his people. It's a bit like dreaming about your perfectly organized pantry, meticulously stocked with all your favorite provisions. Not exactly thrilling, but deeply satisfying. A quiet sense of order and abundance, isn't it? Then there are the more human, universally relatable anxieties that even absolute power cannot fully dissipate. You might dream of misplacing a favorite, intricately carved royal seal, causing a minor administrative panic as important documents cannot be authorized. Or perhaps you envision a minor bureaucratic blunder leading to a small but irritating cascade of problems, like a vital delivery being delayed or a petty dispute among officials that requires your attention. Perhaps you dream of a particularly stubborn mule laden with supplies, refusing to move on a crucial road, symbolizing a minor administrative headache or a difficult, recalcitrant subordinate who simply won't follow orders. These dreams, while seemingly trivial in the grand scheme of empire, reveal the king as a human being, grappling with the everyday frustrations and petty annoyances that even absolute power cannot fully escape. Historians still argue about the true significance of these mundane dreams. Were they simply subconscious processing of daily events, the mind organizing the day's experiences? Or did even these small occurrences carry a deeper, albeit more subtle, divine message, perhaps? Warning of slight inefficiencies or minor disloyalties that, if unchecked, could grow into larger problems. It's a quirky tidbit that some dreams recorded the king's interactions with his animals, his powerful hunting dogs, his prized horses, or even a favored pet lion kept in the royal menagerie. A dream of a loyal hunting dog barking protectively at an unseen threat outside the palace gates, for instance, might be interpreted as a subtle omen of trustworthy guards or loyal advisors standing firm against hidden enemies. Conversely, a dream of a prize horse stumbling badly or throwing its rider could be a warning of a minor accident or an unexpected delay in a journey. These personal touches offer a fascinating counterpoint to the fierce warrior and intellectual image, showing a glimpse of the man behind the crown. Your dream journals, therefore, are not just state documents intended for formal record-keeping. They are, in part, a personal diary, revealing the intricate tapestry of your daily life, both grand and small. They show you Ashurbanipal, not just as a monumental figure of history, a conqueror and a scholar, but as a man who, like anyone else, dealt with the small triumphs and frustrations of everyday existence, albeit on a far grander scale. These snippets of normalcy, preserved on ancient clay, remind us that even across millennia, the human experience, with its complex mix of grand ambitions and quiet anxieties, remains remarkably consistent. Now let's step back from the specific, content of Ashurbanipal's dreams, and appreciate the incredible logistical feat behind their preservation. These were not just fleeting thoughts, evanescent whispers of the subconscious. They were meticulously documented, interpreted, and archived. This brings us to the crucial role of the scribes and dream recorders who made these intimate royal narratives a lasting testament to Assyrian belief and the king's inner life. Without their tireless, disciplined work, this unique window into the mind of an ancient ruler would simply not exist. It's a mainstream historical fact that scribes were highly skilled and respected professionals in ancient Mesopotamia, essential to the functioning of the state the administration of a vast empire, and the preservation of knowledge across generations. They were the backbone of the literate society, often serving for their entire lives within the palace or temple complexes. Imagine, as Ashurbanipal, waking from a particularly vivid dream, perhaps one that feels profoundly significant or terribly unsettling. You immediately summon a highly trained scribe to your presence. He doesn't just jot down a few hurried notes. He listens with intense focus, his stylus already poised, ready to capture every detail, every nuance, every symbolic element you describe. The process is precise and methodical. You describe the dream in your own words, then the Baru priest provides the initial, often complex interpretation based on extensive omen literature. And finally, the scribe records both your account and the diviner's analysis. Sometimes there might even be follow-up entries detailing what actions were taken based on the dream, and whether the predicted outcome materialized. Creating a continuous record of prophecy and fulfillment or non-fulfillment, it's a bit like having a team of dedicated personal assistants whose sole job is to meticulously document your nocturnal adventures, transforming fleeting imagery into permanent actionable intelligence. Talk about a comprehensive record. These scribes were more than mere copyists. They were highly educated individuals, often multilingual, fluent in both Sumerian and Akkadian, and conversant with the vast body of omen literature, religious texts, and administrative protocols. They knew the conventions, the precise terminology, and the specific formulas required for recording such sensitive royal information, ensuring consistency and accuracy across the vast collection. Their training began early, often in specialized scribal schools, where they mastered the complex cuneiform script. Historians still argue about the number of scribes dedicated solely to recording royal dreams. Was it a small, elite cadre? Highly specialized dream team within the palace bureaucracy, responsible only for these intimate royal accounts? Or was it a larger section of the general scribal staff, rotating duties as needed? The sheer volume of surviving dream records, spanning decades of Ashurbanipal's reign, strongly suggests a dedicated and highly efficient system was in place, indicating the immense importance placed on these divinatory documents. It's a tidbit that scribes often included their own colophons at the end of tablets, sometimes stating their names, their lineage, their place of origin, or even expressing a personal plea, a prayer for well-being, or blessing for future readers. While such personal flourishes were less common on highly sensitive royal dream journals, which adhered to strict official formats, it shows the individuality that could surface even in these otherwise formal and anonymous roles. The work of these scribes ensured that Ashurbanipal's most private fears and aspirations, his moments of doubt and his grandest visions, became a permanent part of the royal archive, accessible for future consultation by later kings, and eventually, for modern scholarship, it transformed ephemeral visions into enduring historical documents, bridging the gap between a king's mind and our modern understanding. Without their painstaking efforts, without their disciplined hand on the stylus, these invaluable insights into the king's subconscious, and indeed much of what we know about ancient Assyrian intellectual life, belief systems, and daily governance, would be lost to the sands of time. You are truly indebted to their silent, diligent work, transforming the fleeting whispers of the night into solid, tangible knowledge that has endured for millennia. You've now explored the multifaceted world contained within Ashurbanipal's dream journals. From grand visions of conquest and the anxieties of dynastic succession to mundane daily annoyances, all meticulously recorded by dedicated scribes. But what do these remarkable records truly tell us? Not just about the king himself, but about Assyrian thought as a whole. The legacy of these dream journals extends far beyond their initial purpose as divine guidance. They are an unparalleled window into an ancient civilization's psyche, revealing its core beliefs, fears, and aspirations. It's a mainstream historical fact that the Royal Library of Ashurbanipal is one of the most important archaeological discoveries for understanding the ancient Near East, a veritable Rosetta Stone for Assyrian culture, with the dream journals forming a unique and invaluable part of that extraordinary collection. offering personal insights almost unheard of for such a distant historical period. These journals reveal a culture deeply entwined with the spiritual realm, where the boundary between the sacred and the secular was almost non-existent. For Ashurbanipal, every decision, every major event, every personal concern could potentially be informed by a message from the gods delivered through the veiled, symbolic language of dreams. This wasn't merely a superstitious practice or a random collection of folklore. It was a sophisticated, systematic system of belief and interpretation, reflecting a profound societal desire to understand and align human actions with cosmic forces, to live in harmony or strategic alliance with the divine. It's a bit like having a constant personal hotline to the divine, isn't it? Except the gods only communicate through abstract imagery and cryptic messages that demand careful deciphering, requiring highly specialized interpreters like the Baru priests. This constant seeking of divine will through dreams highlights a pervasive sense of the gods' active involvement in human affairs. The journals also offer a deeply personal and surprisingly vulnerable portrait of Ashurbanipal himself, a figure often presented in royal inscriptions as an invincible, all-powerful conqueror. Through his dreams, we see his hopes for military victory, his profound fears of rebellion and betrayal, especially from his brother, his anxieties about his own health, and the peaceful succession of his lineage. They show a king who, despite his immense worldly power and fierce reputation, was still a human being, susceptible to the same hopes and fears, doubts and uncertainties that affect us all. This intimate glimpse is incredibly rare for ancient monarchs, who are often portrayed solely in triumphal inscriptions and stylized, idealized reliefs that emphasize their divine appointment and martial prowess, masking any hint of weakness. Historians still argue about the extent to which these dream accounts were edited or curated for public consumption. While they undoubtedly served a political purpose, reinforcing the king's divine legitimacy and justifying his actions, the sheer volume and often raw, unvarnished detail of the entries is just a genuine attempt to record and understand deeply personal and sometimes troubling experiences, rather than just fabricating propaganda. It's a quirky tidbit that some modern scholars have attempted to use contemporary psychological theories, such as Freudian or Jungian analysis, to interpret Ashurbanipal's dreams, looking for patterns that might reveal his personality, his subconscious conflicts, or underlying psychological states. While such approaches must be used with extreme caution, given the vast cultural and temporal gap and the inherent limitations of applying modern frameworks to ancient minds, it speaks to the timeless appeal and profound humanity of these records. They invite us to try and understand the internal world of a distant ruler, the meticulous detail in which these dreams were recorded, and the subsequent actions taken or not taken based on their interpretations underscore the practical, vital importance placed upon them. They were not just academic exercises or spiritual curiosities. They were vital tools for governance, for national security, and for the very survival of the empire. The dream journals of Ashurbanipal stand as a unique testament to a king who saw his inner world as intimately connected to the fate of his empire, a profound and revealing legacy etched forever in clay. A silent dialogue between his ancient subconscious and our modern curiosity as our journey through the detailed dream journals of King Ashurbanipal draws to a close. You find yourself contemplating the ultimate fate of this magnificent empire and its dream-obsessed ruler. Ashurbanipal's reign, while marked by incredible intellectual achievement and military expansion, was also, tragically, the twilight of Assyria's golden age. The very empire whose future he so meticulously divined through his dreams would, surprisingly swiftly, crumble after his passing, plunging the Near East into a new era. It's a mainstream historical fact that the Neo-Assyrian Empire, despite its formidable military power and sophisticated administration under Ashurbanipal, experienced a rapid and catastrophic decline and fall within decades of his death, ultimately culminating in the infamous destruction of its once invincible capital, Nineveh, by a coalition of Babylonian and Median force. Imagine the echoes of Nineveh now. It's not the bustling, glorious capital you've envisioned, but a silent mound, its grand palaces, its mighty walls, and its unparalleled libraries buried beneath. Layers of sand and time, silent witnesses to a forgotten grandeur. The very clay tablets containing Ashurbanipal's most intimate thoughts. His hopes, his fears, his divinely inspired visions were entombed within the rubble, silently awaiting discovery millennia later by curious archaeologists. This swift collapse raises profound and persistent questions for historians. Did his dreams cease to offer accurate guidance in the empire's final years? Did the gods, whom he so diligently consulted and honored with temples and rituals, finally abandon Assyria, perhaps in retribution for its brutal conquests or internal strife? Or perhaps was the sheer unsustainable weight of maintaining such a vast, geographically dispersed empire simply too much for any single ruler or a succession of them, regardless of divine favor? Historians still argue about the primary causes. Of Assyria's rapid decline, was it overextension of its resources? Relentless internal strife and succession disputes among his heirs? Devastating environmental factors like prolonged droughts? Or a combination of all these? Culminating in the relentless pressure from resurgent Babylonian and Median forces, who had learned Assyria's tactics and now turned them against their former masters? The answer remains complex and debated. You can almost feel the quietude, the profound silence that descended upon Nineveh after its destruction, the very air that once hummed with the recording of dreams, the fervent prayers of a king, the marching of legions, and the debates of scholars. Now whispers only of wind and dust, carrying the ghosts of a vanished empire. It's a poignant and perhaps ironic quirk of history that the very act of preserving knowledge so meticulously is building such a vast and enduring library. Inadvertently preserved the very evidence of the empire's ultimate fragility and its spectacular fall. The dream journals intended to guide and protect the empire, to ensure its eternal prosperity, became instead a silent, intimate testament to its sudden, brutal end, waiting patiently in the earth to tell their story to a future that Ashurbanipal could never have dreamed of. A future that would learn from his triumphs and his ultimate demise. As the imagery fades, consider the lasting impression of Ashurbanipal. He was a king of profound paradoxes, a fierce, often ruthless warrior who was also a devoted scholar and a meticulous patron of the arts. Relentless conqueror who meticulously recorded his deepest vulnerabilities and anxieties in the quiet of his sleep. His obsession with dreams wasn't merely a personal quirk or a frivolous indulgence. It was deeply embedded in the fabric of his kingship, a constant, lifelong attempt to bridge the gap between the earthly realm and the divine, to harness cosmic will for earthly power, to seek ultimate reassurance in an uncertain world. The thousands of clay tablets from his library, now housed in museums around the world, are more than just archaeological artifacts. They are the tangible remnants of a king's profound inner life, a silent conversation across millennia. As you drift deeper into your own rest, remember the king who sought answers in his sleep, and the fragile echo of an empire that once listened so intently to the whispers of the night, long before it became just a dream itself.